Hey everyone. So today's video is about an update to the FlatFace couplers here. And it's basically a version 2. Now they work the same. They still have the colored bands. They're still 1/4 inch. They're still FlatFace. But if we're talking about this part of the application, it actually doesn't affect anything. But I'll show you right there, and those are not the FlatFace couplers, but I'm going to use that as my example. There's a scenario when it goes through certain ports on the John Deere tractors where you can't get the snap ring on the back. And so we've addressed that. And for those of you who have bought these couplers, now obviously if you bought them for this, you won't need anything different. The thing on the very front, you won't need anything different. But if you had this, I will send you replacements for the females so that they will fit in that location. And you'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute. But I thought I'd go ahead and take the opportunity. I want to take the loader off so I can get back to there and just show you how nice and easy these work. Now, before I do, one thing to note is this is one of the prototype connect under pressure versions, and this is the standard version on the male side, right? So that's why this one looks different than this one and the one behind. Now, this one looks a little bit different as well because it has the one-way restrictor in this line. Now, yours probably has the one-way restrictor on the blue. I had changed mine for the scale version, and you can use this one-way restrictor on either one of these as long as you have the orientation correct. So it has to, so this is where the pressure goes so the loader lifts up. So when this comes through and the loader's lifting up, it doesn't need to restrict. But as it's going down, it does, the pressure goes out this way, so it does need to restrict going that direction. If you put it up here, you would have to flip it so that when it goes out, there's no restriction. When it comes back, there is restriction, under low pressure. So it can go on either one, but that's why these two look different than the ones back here. So, and it's easy as it is on any flat face coupler if you've ever used one. Now you do have these little notches so that you can twist them so that they will lock. That way, I've had this happen to me, but not too often, where you're out driving in some rougher terrain, and on the old ag couplers, it'll pull it back and they pop off, and then you don't know why your loader doesn't work. With these, you don't have that problem. You just spin it to the side, and it works as a lock. That does mean, though, if you want to undo it, you gotta align that, and all you need to do is pull it back. Let's see here. Can't see this one, so I have to just twist and pull back until I find the notch, which I was probably just right next to it, my guess is. Oh, there it is. So pull this one off. And you can see with this longer one why, if you've seen the previous videos, why I was saying I'm not sure that the connect under pressure necessarily makes sense right here, because these work really well, and assuming you don't have a whole lot of pressure, these will work. These will connect under some pressure. This is meant to connect under quite a bit of pressure, something like 3,000 PSI. Now, one thing I didn't say, which I should have before, is you won't have that trouble as long as you wiggle your control valve before you remove them so that you relieve any pressure. And of course, your loader has to be on the ground. So, connecting them back, or just as simple as just aligning them and pushing in. So this to me is the best solution. It keeps it simple. It's more cost effective, as well as if you have your snowblower or other things that use these 4 ports. It's a nice and easy change. My preference, not going to be everybody's preference. I know the latest tractors are coming with a single point connector, which basically uses flat face connectors as well, but they're not independent like this. That's a nice solution. I can't fault it for that. But if you have to put it on after the fact, it's very expensive. And I do think it has some limitations if you're using other implements besides just the loader. If you only have the loader, I think that's probably the way to go, actually. It is more expensive, but it's probably easier to handle. So let me get the tractor backed up and we'll look at the change we made to these couplers. Those of you who take your loader off a lot more often than I do probably noticed that with what I was doing, I couldn't take the loader off. You got to basically take it off first and then you can unhook. Got a little too eager to start the video here, so I had to plug them back up. And now the loader is off, and I'm going to back it up here and so we can get to those third function ones so I can show you the new update. All right, so we're down here. Now this is on the John Deere factory third function. And what it has here is a piece of 3/16 steel that's their bracket to bring these through. Now, I've got this one connected in, and you can see it's got some wiggle room to it, but for the most part. Now, this one isn't connected. It doesn't have the backing, the rings back there, but I pulled it back. So you can see it'll pull forward, but it will only go in so far. Now, when I was coming up with or solving for this, my assumption, and everybody knows what that does, was that if you could make it work with this, because the challenge actually is, if you're not familiar, the FlatFace couplers, they are too big to go through the holes in this, it's not really a manifold, but it's basically a plate. So they're too big to go through there, so you couldn't just buy standard off the shelf. Also, you needed to have the place for the snap ring in the back in the right location. So and this one's the hard one to get to. I don't remember actually that one. Oh, it is on there. Okay, so they'll have a little bit of play in them, as you can see, but for the most part, the snap ring's going to hold them from coming forward. Same thing for these in the the ag version. It's not necessarily so tight that there's no movement, but it's basically to keep it in place. Now, I was solving for this, and I thought, well, if I solve for this, then anywhere else that this ag 1/4 inch coupler is used, I should be fine. I was wrong about that. And let me show you, let me take this one off and I'll show you what the problem is here. All right, I got that one off, and let me show you kind of the offending feature. And as you can see, this is kind of inset where there's a second lip in there. And what it's really, I'll say what it's meant to do, but I don't think, my guess is that they made this because they already had this, and with the 3/16 steel that they had here, if they would have just went with 1/8 steel, it would have went straight in. But I'm not going to argue with people on whether or not this is a feature that has some functionality or if it's just fixing a mistake. My guess, just knowing how things typically happen, I think it's probably fixing a mistake. Even though that kind of nestles in there, it seems like it is meant to fit that way. I think most likely it had to do with just how thick this steel is, or how much steel they felt like they needed here, because 1/8 is probably a little too thin to use as a bracket material. That said, we see this on this third function mount, as well as like on the 2R tractor whenever you put the third function on it. Actually, no, even from the factory, and I'll show that in just a minute, it has it set like this. But again, my guess is that they had made these kind of standard, and then ultimately they needed to make a modification so that these would work with the snap ring in the back. But, so this is the standard that John Deere uses on everything. You can see it here. This is my, I'll call it my version 1. Forgive the very dirty format. This is just the easiest place to do it. You can see I've got my my groove here for my snap ring as well. And this is skinnied down so that it will fit in the same location. So that was version 1, and now this is version 2. And the real difference between the two is it still has the snap ring here, but I have a second place for a snap ring here, so that if you do it here on the 1 series for the loader, you're actually going to use the first snap ring groove. If you use it on the 2 series or the third function for the 1 series, then you'll use the second snap ring. Now, I haven't reached out to anybody about this. We've sold a decent number, and honestly, there wasn't anything I could do from the original batch. So I kind of just waited to see if anybody would mention it or would notice. Actually, I didn't learn about it because I didn't do the test on this version until they were already into production. But I had a customer call and say, look, I was not able to get these in. And what he did is he basically just took that the rest of the way out and then used the first snap ring location, which is only, he actually has this version. So, that worked. And typically, if there is an issue, I'll say I will reach out, except the thing that makes this not as much of an issue is because with these, you don't ever pull. And so what I mean by that is when you're putting the male end into the female coupler, you push it in, so it pushes against there. And whenever you release it, you push in and it pops out. So I'm not saying it's not an issue. Clearly, I wanted to make a version 2 that addresses it. And everybody who has a large frame 2 tractor, or you bought these to go with your third function, like there. I have not done haven't looked at the data yet, but whoever has those, I'll be reaching out, and you'll have the option to get updated versions of these for free. I'll send them to you for free because that's kind of our policy around here. When you get an upgrade, I can't say that every upgrade is free, but for ones like this and ones that I think I can swing, they'll be free upgrades. And as far as I'm concerned, that's as long as you own the tractor. I'm probably not going to reach out with people who, second, third hand owners of this stuff. Not that I won't address something, but if you bought it from me and it's your tractor and I have an updated version, and you want it, sometimes, customers might say, well, I don't really want it. Example would be this right here is a poly, this is for the turbo, and it's actually ABS, except now I have an aluminum version. Some of the guys wanted the aluminum version, but actually on that, most people wanted it, but other people were saying, mine works fine, and I'm probably not going to change it. I'll reach out to you if I have an issue with mine. So that's just the policy around here. But that said, you can see, let me take you to the 2038 and let me show you that one. All right, here's the 2038. I've got the factory third function, so I do have them swapped out on here as well. And then I've got this one. You can see these, like I mentioned, if you want to take one off, you just push it in and it comes off. And if you want to put it back on, you just push it back in. Oh, my loader's not exactly down, so it can build a little bit of pressure there. So by pushing it, you don't have, and you don't actually notice this, but if you were to yank out on this, you can kind of see that pulling out. So what this is going to do, and you can see the little inset here, I think that'll focus. You can see that little inset here, same thing, but what we'll do on this application is these four, I will give you new ones. Now, obviously for this, for the 2 series, you don't need the second snap ring. Now in the future, if something happens and I have to replace one, you may get one with the double snap ring. But for these, you don't need them. And the same thing goes for the ones up here, which I haven't changed, but you can see they kind of bent up too. You wouldn't need the second snap ring on that. So otherwise, these are identical. It just has to do with that second groove here. And but again, unless I'm going to reach out to everybody. If you see this video and you haven't heard from me, feel free to reach out. No problem there. If it's something that you want, we'll get those shipped out soon. If you might say, you know what, mine are just fine. I haven't had any trouble with them. Again, I've had one person who called it out. They actually addressed it themselves, which is the fun part about having farmers and technical and mechanics and others as your main customer base. A lot of you guys are out there that just like, they believe it should be fixed, I'm sure, but they're just like, look, I can knock this out pretty easily. And so I had the one guy do that, and then I did have one guy say, hey, I noticed this doesn't go all the way in. I mentioned it. I mentioned the situation, and then I got him some with the second snap ring. So anyhow, that's what we'll do on the large frame 2R. If you have another application that I'm not thinking of that has this same situation, I'm not really asking questions. These are just the ones I know about. So if you want you want them to be swapped out, what I'll do is I'll send you a new set and I'll send you a return label. Won't have any cost to you, just a little bit of extra effort, which sorry about that, but I do appreciate you guys. I think everybody who's following HydrosPlus knows that on some situations, you're definitely still a bit of a beta tester. But if we can improve things, I think we should, and we will when it makes sense. So let me go back over to the 1 Series and I'll show you a little bit closer look of kind of how it works, and then that'll be it for this one. All right, I'm actually going to show you this kind of in reverse because it's really hard to see in the back, because functionally it works the same. This one is not going to nestle into that smaller hole or the inset. It's actually going to be on the outside of it. So basically that second one gives me the ability to go for the full 3/16, but just so you can see it, let me take this one off. Well, actually I'll just use it. So you can see it. I'm gonna put this in, can I get it past that guy? Put it in the back side here. Ooh, maybe that makes sense. And then I'll get my snap ring pliers. Obviously this is not, I would have an impediment. I'd have another piece here I'd have to go around. And I thought I was gonna be smart here. Let's see, move this. Oh yeah, maybe it'll go down. Of course not. Let me push this guy down. I'm trying to keep the camera at the right angle, so that's why it probably seems like there we go, maybe. All right, so this would go on here as your typical snap ring does. All right, see, now it goes all the way through versus being kind of in that inset area, and it's the full 3/16. So that's kind of how it works. Obviously this is in reverse. Now what I'll do is I'll pop this off and I'm gonna install both of these and I'll show you what it looks like completely installed. All right, so I've got them in, connected, very simple. Just take the snap ring off, take the other one, screw it out, put this one, screw it back on. The added advantage of being flat face, the ring here does not spin, so you can actually put these on quite a bit easier. They do have hex on the back so that you can tighten it down, but ultimately now we've got the back snap ring connected. Before it would have come out just a little bit. Again, because of the way these work, like I said, you push in to connect it, you push in to disconnect it. So I don't know that it really makes that big a difference. And I do think that's why, I do think that's why I haven't heard really from anybody on these, just a few, very few people. And honestly, the one of them was really posed as a question. The other one was more of a, hey, did you know this? And, as a way of improvement. I love when customers reach back out to me and tell me, you're not complaining, you're helping me understand what I could potentially improve it on. And the guy who reached out, he just said, look, I'm gonna handle this, but here's something you should think about. And I was a little bit embarrassed that I had not actually put them on here yet and noticed that there was a bit of an issue. But when I did do that on a different tractor, I realized, well, this is why nobody's probably saying anything, because it's all pushing in, it's never pulling out. So that is why it doesn't really affect the use of it. But that's it for this video. I wanted to show you that. I wanted you to know, if you have this John Deere third function, or if you have another application, again, I'll reach out to people who bought the extra ones that I think have this third function. I'll also reach out to any of the large frame 2R or 2 Series owners, because I do know that there's connects in that way. And but for any reason, if you've got one that second ring, which I don't have it on any of these, but the second groove you feel like will make a difference, just reach out to me if you've already bought these, and we'll get you set up with the one with the second ring, so that it actually works better for your application. Questions, comments, leave them below. And thanks for watching.